All right, so in this video, we're going to factor polynomials, specifically quadratic trinomials, of the form x squared plus bx minus c. Okay, make sure we understand that c is going to be negative here. And we're going to do that using the grouping method. All right, we just learned guess and check, and you can always use that. All right, but if you need a process, grouping method will always be there for you. It always works. Okay. Again, the steps, if possible, factor out a GCF. It's always going to be your first step when you're factoring, is look for a greatest common factor. Okay. Once that's done, these are really the steps for grouping. We're going to multiply a times c. Remember, when we're in standard form, a is the coefficient of x squared, and c is going to be the constant. All right. So we're going to multiply a times c. Okay. Once we do that, once we have that product, we're going to find two factors of that product that combine to give me the b value, okay? And b is the coefficient of x when we're in standard form, all right? Once we have those two factors, we're going to break up this middle term. We're going to break up this negative 4x, for example, into two different terms using those factors from step 3, okay? Once we do that, we're going to have 4 terms altogether. We can factor those by grouping, all right? So let's factor this trinomial using the grouping method. So step 1, look for a GCF. There's not one. So we're going to move on to step 2, which is to find AC. All right, so A is 1, C is negative 32. When I multiply those together, I get negative 32. Okay. Step 3, we want to find factors of negative 32 that combine to give me B. Okay, so B here, we need to pay attention and look at that. B is going to be negative 4. All right, so I want to think my factors of negative 32, one's got to be positive, one's got to be negative. And because my b value is negative, I want the larger of these two factors. In terms of value, the larger one to be negative, okay? So for example, I'm gonna try 1 and negative 32 first, okay? But when I combine those, I get negative 31, which obviously doesn't match. So we're gonna get rid of that, okay? Let's move on up. We're gonna try 2 and negative 16, okay? Those combine to give me negative 14, okay? We're getting closer, but we're still not all the way there, so that one's out, okay? 32 is not divisible by 3, so I can skip that. Let's go to 4. So 4 and negative 8, okay? So when I combine those two, notice I get that negative 4 that I want to match up here, okay? So this is going to be the pair of factors that I'm going to use, okay? So now I want to break this negative 4x into two different terms using these two values, 4 and negative 8, okay? So I'm going to rewrite that negative 4x as positive 4x minus 8x, okay? So this is what I'm going to use in the middle here. So now I want to factor by grouping, okay? So let's rewrite that negative 4x. So I'm changing negative 4x to this. Notice they're equivalent still. Nothing's changed. Okay, we haven't altered the essence here of this expression. Okay, but I've now got it in a form where I can factor using grouping. All right, so let's group those first two terms together in parentheses. Notice, remember, I always want to put a plus sign here because I want to keep these signs, these negative signs, with the 8x and with the 32. All right, so in this set of parentheses, they've got a GCF of x. So when I divide that by x, I get x plus 4. Here, they have a negative 8 in common, and then I get x plus 4 on the inside again. Remember, when I factor by grouping, these have to match up, and they do, all right? So I'm going to take this x and this negative 8. That's going to be my first binomial, then the binomial they have in common, x plus 4, and that's going to be my answer, okay? As always, you can use the distributive property, multiply these two out, and you should get the trinomial that we started with, okay? And you will. So this is the answer for the first example. All right, let's look at number 2 here. Okay, 2x squared, negative 12x, negative 80. All of these are even, so we've got a GCF of 2. So let's take out a 2 first. And when we divide each of these by 2, the trinomial that's left inside parentheses here is x squared minus 6x minus 40. Okay? Notice this 2 doesn't go away. It should be part of my answer the rest of the way down. Okay, the 2 has to be there to make sure I end up with this when I use the distributive property at the end to check. Okay, so now I'm factoring this trinomial. We're going to kind of forget about the 2. We know it's there, but we're going to forget about it the rest of the way down. Okay. So A is going to be 1. and C is going to be negative 40. Okay, so A times C is negative 40. Okay, and I want to look for factors of negative 40 that are going to combine to give me negative 6. All right, so let's just start at the top. Remember, 6 is negative here, so I want to have my larger factor in terms of value be negative. Okay, so 1 and negative 40 combines to be negative 39. That doesn't match. Let's go to 2 and negative 20. Well, that combines to be negative 18. That doesn't work. Okay, 40 is not divisible by 3, so let's go to 4. So 4 times negative 10 is negative 40. When I combine those, I get negative 6. And notice that matches up. All right, so let's move on to step 4. We're going to rewrite negative 6x as 4x minus 10x. Okay, and then I'm going to factor by grouping. Okay, so again, remember my 2's not gone. My x squared minus 6x minus 40, I'm going to rewrite as x squared plus 4x minus 10x minus 40. Okay, so now we're going to group like we always do, these first two terms together and the last two terms together, and I'm going to separate those with a plus sign just to be safe. Okay, all right, so this binomial has an x in common, so remember the 2's never gone, so x times x plus 4. This binomial, they're both divisible by negative 10. So let's take out a negative 10, and that leaves me with x plus 4. And again, these match up, which is what I wanted. Okay? So again, my 2 never goes away. X minus 10 will be my first binomial, and then the binomial they have in common, x plus 4, is the last one. Okay, so this is the complete factorization. 2 times x minus 10 times x plus 4 would multiply together to give me this. Okay, so always check your work, but if you need a process, okay, then this grouping method will be a good one, an easy one for you to remember usually. Okay, guess and check is better because I think you can build your skills in terms of factoring by sight a little better, but if you need a process, this always works. Remember it, use it, because you're going to be factoring a lot as we move forward.